SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
At Black Sheep Boutique, we don't want you to fit in. We want you to stand out. And we have everything you need to look the part this spring, from clothing to accessories. Visit one of our 2 locations in Tupelo and Saltillo, or visit our website at theblacksheeptupelo.com. Stand out this spring with the Black Sheep Boutique in Tupelo.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby.
Here we go. Good morning. Happy Tuesday to you. February 24th. Month of February is almost gone. We'll be into March. We'll be into warmer temperatures. We'll be into spring break, and then it's a sprint to the summer. Not wishing it away. It just, man, it goes fast. Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Show's presented every day by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. The C-Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. Love to hear from you. It's the best way to communicate. You can send a message, thoughts on what we're talking about, questions that you've got, or whatever else. Complete non sequitur. You want to send us a picture this morning? Fire away, 601-879-4395. That's the C-Spire text line. There's more to see at cspire.com. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Lance, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning on a chilly day.
Yeah.
Out there. It's nice, though. We'll be over with today, too.
Yeah. After today warms up a lot across the state of Mississippi. In fact, not going to be bad by the time we get to lunchtime or so today. Horn Lake, you've got intervals of clouds and sunshine today with a high near 55 degrees. Winds out of the south at 10 to 20 miles an hour. So there's your first difference from yesterday. That wind direction has done a 180. Instead of north-northwest, it is coming out of the south and really going to do that all over the state. Amory, you've got sunshine and clouds with a high of near 55 degrees and winds out of the south at 10 to 15. Generally sunny today in Vicksburg, 62 degrees. Sounds like a nice day today in Vicksburg. South winds there also. And Waynesboro, generally sunny, 60 degrees for your high. 5 to 10 mile an hour south breeze for you. Not bad right there. Not bad. You know, Lance, you're the one that always talks about, well, you know, for every however many miles south you go, you get a degree. And
yeah.
There's a difference. I feel like this is the time of the year where we get to that being like the most defined.
Yeah, there's like lines, actually.
Yeah.
It works perfectly. In the summer, Oxford's always a little cooler. It always is. And then the coast seems to be about what it is here. But you're right. I think this time of the year, as the seasons change, you definitely get to see the striations. And as it goes south, you get a little warmer. Mm-hmm. North, it's going to get a little cooler.
Yeah.
Works perfect, man.
Man, some of the pictures out of the Northeast. Did you see Montauk yesterday out at the eastern end of Long Island? About 2 feet of snow. 2 feet, and it was the heavy, wet snow. This stuff that's hard to walk in, hard to get around in, heavy on the tree limbs.
I wonder how the Montauk Monster made it, out there in all that snow. That's where Plum Island is, the research facility where they find the monsters washing up on shore.
You read Nelson DeMille books?
No.
Oh.
There's good stuff.
There's a book that it's a kind of mystery espionage detective thing.
I like that.
A book called Plum Island. Nelson DeMille, good author. And he's got a bunch of stuff. He's written several that are kind of set out on Long Island. A book called The Gold Coast. Really good stuff. Mobster moves in as the next door neighbor of these super uber waspy people.
Ooh.
Imagine the interactions that go along.
Yeah.
Central Park ended up, around 18 inches or so of snow yesterday. Saw that Providence, Rhode Island had an all-time record snowfall, 32.8 inches, I believe. Passed the previous record by, full 4 inches. It was impressive. It was impressive. And now they'll start to dig out in the Northeast. Steve Jobs was born today, 1955. So he would have been 71 today. He was the co-founder of Apple, visionary and entrepreneur, pioneer in personal computing and consumer electronics. Super, super creative. And never lost the creative flair despite the fact that he was building a technology company. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is 49 years old today. Undefeated in his career. 50-0, widely regarded as one of the greatest defensive fighters in history. And an announcement coming up that he's going to be back in the ring soon. We'll give you that when we get to the sports update this morning. In 1786, Wilhelm Grimm, the German philologist and folklorist. Anyway, you've heard of Grimm's fairy tales? He was the author there. Sorry, maybe digging just a touch on the birthdays.
That's a good one, though. I mean, really.
Yeah, I guess. Do we know Grimm's fairy tales? I feel like I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a compilation of many, many different stories. Some you'd heard before, and some that I believe were fairly new to the reader at the time. So it was kind of a historical context, along with some of the newer legends that had come around that era in this late 1700s. So you get a lot of some crazy stuff.
Hold on. Grimm's fairy tales, Cinderella,
yeah,
Hansel and Gretel,
in Red Riding Hood and all of it.
Hey there, little Red Riding.
And there's some crazier ones too now. But
Rapunzel and Snow White,
Rumpelstiltskin, that's a good one, and I think that one's in there. And I'm trying to remember all of them that are actually in that.
The Frog Prince.
Ah, there you go.
I don't remember the Wolf and the Seven Little Kids.
They probably ate them. Yeah. And a lot of those fairy tales had this types of
little dark,
weird endings. Yeah.
Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, born on this day in 1500. He was a powerful monarch who ruled over vast territories in Europe and the Americas during the Renaissance era. Edward James Olmos.
My man.
Yeah?
I love this guy, yeah. I mean, if you're in Blade Runner as Detective Gaff, and you also are in Miami Vice. So, I mean, you've nailed it for me right there.
And Stand and Deliver, and Battlestar Galactica.
So many others, but, I mean, that's how you start off the career there.
The Flying Dutchman, born on this day in 1874. Honus Wagner, one of the first inductees into Major League Baseball's, or Pro Baseball's, Hall of Fame. An absolute legend on the diamond. Also a legend because of his baseball card. It's the Honus Wagner card that has consistently been the most expensive baseball card ever traded. Bought and sold, bought and sold. It was one of those kind of skinny, vertical, rectangle tobacco cards.
Yeah, you could like roll a cigarette with it when you're done. It looked like.
And I'm sure many did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They didn't know the value.
Most expensive cigarette they've ever smoked.
Exactly. That's what made me think of that. I'm like, how many people actually rolled a smoke with that thing back in the day?
Yeah.
Cool cars. They're like hand painted. Whatever that technique was. I don't know what you call it. But it's not a photo. And it doesn't look like hand painted, is it? It's not a lithograph. I don't know what they used then.
The card was T206. It was a Piedmont tobacco card. One was recently found. Card that was originally pulled 117 years ago, just sold for $5 million. $5 million. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Ready for youth turkey season. My son turned 5, and this is going to be his first year. That is Philip from Houston. Philip, we are close. Close. George Thorogood, born on this day in 1950, the rock musician and guitarist. He was the leader of George Thorogood and the Destroyers. He had one hit that stood out above all the rest. Bad to the bone.
Oh, it's got Life is a Highway is another big one.
That's a pretty good one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And not the
field,
Cars remake.
Yeah, out in the field jamming on the guitar. Is the
You
video.
like the George Thorogood version better than the Rascal Flatts version?
I like the George Thorogood one because it was kind of like his thing. Those two songs. Got to attribute them to him, maybe.
Yep. Got some things that happened for you on this day in history coming up alongside Lance. I'm Richard, just getting started with you on this Tuesday morning, the 24th of February. Probably need a jacket as you head out the door. It's going to warm up nicely today. Mornings with Richard Cross presented by Community Bank. Don't you worry about a thing. We'll be right back.
From the Venable Glass.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you. It is Tuesday morning, February 24th. Thanks for joining us to start your day. C-Spire text line open at 601-879-4395. A papal bull was a formal, authoritative, and solemn document that came from the Pope, usually written in Latin and sealed with a lead bulla. Well, on this day in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII issued a papal bull introducing the Gregorian calendar. That is the one that we use today. It corrected inaccuracies in the Julian calendar by skipping 10 days and refining leap year rules. This reform was adopted immediately in Catholic countries and gradually was adopted worldwide. Don't you think there were a few years of confusion when the Catholic countries and the other countries weren't on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, think of records from that date of October the 5th through the 14th of 1582. Yeah. I mean, there was no social media. I don't know what the mail was like, but how long did it take for people to figure out that they had dated everything wrong?
Hey, everybody, today is February 24th. Tomorrow is March 8th. Got it? Cheers.
It probably blew some minds. Can you imagine? It seems that the church stays away from 13 months, where you'd have, 28 days? And I think the last month would have 29, if I'm right on that. And maybe that has something to do with the persecution of the Templars, the Friday the 13th, 1307.
Maybe they just didn't want to be at odds with hotels.
Maybe so. Well,
can't find a 13th floor on a hotel.
No, you can't. And it was. You can blame it on Caesar too, because he was the one that just kind of kept adding months until you got to 12. There was a lot of people that think that we had 13 months originally, but it was really 10, 11, and then 12.
Man, there's some stuff running around inside that head of yours, isn't there?
I always found the calendar fascinating, because, it was something that the sun comes up and the sun goes down, right? There's so many days. And, man, how many calendars are there? There are tons. It's all over the place. I think four countries and I can't remember who they are, don't even acknowledge the Gregorian calendar. They're still using the other one in the modern era. So 4 countries are like, nah, forget about those 10 days. We still got them.
Fair amount of chutzpah from old Pope Greg to name it after himself as well.
It'll be remembered forever.
The Battle of Pavia happened on this day in 1525 during the Italian Wars. The Holy Roman Empire, I can't talk. Let's take a breath there. Holy Roman Emperor Charles V's forces decisively defeated the French army, capturing King Francis I of France in one of the most important battles of the Renaissance. In 1803, in the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case Marbury versus Madison, Chief Justice John Marshall established the principle of judicial review, empowering courts to declare acts of Congress unconstitutional, a foundational element of American constitutional law. 1868, the House of Representatives impeached President Andrew Johnson over violations of the Tenure of Office Act amid Reconstruction disputes, later acquitted by 1 vote in the Senate. Today in 1920, the German Workers' Party held its first major meeting in Munich, where Adolf Hitler outlined the party's 25-point program, soon rebranded as the National Socialist German Workers' Party, also known as the Nazis, making the formal beginning of that movement's rise in Germany.
It's amazing how long that movement actually took to get in full steam, how many opportunities there were to actually kick Hitler in the teeth, put him back in his place. But no one wanted to do that.
No.
He would have caved quickly, too.
The Battle of Los Angeles, 1942, a wartime false alarm that led to an intense anti-aircraft fire barrage across the city of Los Angeles against what was believed to be Japanese aircraft. But no enemy planes were ever confirmed, resulting in widespread panic and property damage for the city of Angels.
Flying saucers, right?
Somehow that had to be Gavin Newsom's fault.
He's not a good reader, though.
1945, during World War II, United States forces liberated Manila, capital of the Philippines, from Japanese occupation after intense urban fighting in one of the war's bloodiest battles in the Pacific Theater. And finally, on this day in 1991, February 24th, the ground phase of the Persian Gulf War began as a U.S.-led coalition forces launched a major offensive to liberate Kuwait from Iraqi occupation following weeks of air campaigns. All right, we got news headlines with you. A cyber attack last week continuing to impact operations at the University of Mississippi Medical Center after announcing that clinics statewide would be closed and elective procedures would be canceled on Monday and Tuesday. UMMC officials provided an update yesterday evening saying the same schedule would apply on Wednesday. Appointments will be rescheduled as soon as possible. UMMC hospitals and emergency departments in Jackson, Grenada, Madison County, and Holmes County are operating. The social media post said, "We apologize for this interruption of our services. Teams are working around the clock to restore full operations and help as many people as quickly as we possibly can." All right, now they have set up a hotline. The most in need of assistance are encouraged to use a triage line set up by UMMC. The number, 601-815-0000. 601-815-40. That's for time-sensitive needs like medication refills or post-op care visits. Those will be prioritized. Patients who will call will be prompted to provide their name, a callback number, their date of birth, who they're trying to reach, why they're calling, medication and pharmacy, if that's applicable. Messages will then be routed to the proper person internally for a return phone call a phone call which may come from a non-UMMC number, as the phone systems are still apparently a mess as well. So, what a mess. Doctors LouAnn Woodward and Alan Jones will join us this morning. Coming up a little less than an hour from right now, we will get the latest information that they are able to share with us about the cyber attack, what they're doing to get everything back online, maybe some cancer center updates as well. All that on the way. A Mississippi high school basketball coach arrested over the weekend for DUI. B.J. Townsend is the head boys basketball coach at Canton High, arrested by the Reservoir Police Department. DUI, no insurance, and another undisclosed traffic violation. About 20 miles from Canton. According to the investigator, his bond was set at $3,500. He has since posted that. He's been really good at his day job. Head coach at Canton since 2022, back-to-back 5A state championships in 24 and 25. This year's version of Canton is 25 and 6. They've got Olive Branch in the second round of the playoffs on Wednesday. That's 6A now, so Canton's moved up. Unclear as to what Townsend's role will be in that game. Canton said they will not be commenting because it is a personnel matter. Pretty cool news for a North Mississippi hospital. Mississippi hospital, one of the best in America, according to Health Grades, popular website used by Americans when they're trying to find a hospital, a doctor, or a healthcare provider. In its best 250 hospitals for 2026, included Baptist Memorial Hospital, North Mississippi, which makes the Oxford Hospital among the top 5% for clinical excellence in the entire country. Second year in a row, Baptist has been named a top 250 hospital. Only hospital in the state of Mississippi that has won the award. Through its analysis, Health Grades evaluated approximately 4,500 hospitals on 31 conditions and procedures, including heart attacks and total knee replacement, other clinical outcomes from 23 through 25. They did this independently. The hospitals could not submit their own data. So congratulations to the entire team at Baptist Memorial Hospital, North Mississippi in Oxford. Quick time out. We're back with you. We've got a sports update and more. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Seabrook.com.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
It took her 3 days on a train, looking for some peace and quiet, hope to see the sun again, but now she lives down.
Oh, one of his greats. One of his all-time greats. Man, I miss Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, goodness. I grew up on Jimmy, man. Neighbor took lessons from Fingers Taylor as a kid in harmonica, so kind of grew up on that, you know.
Just the best. So many memories from years gone by where you hear a Jimmy Buffett song and it immediately takes you back to whatever that event or thing or group of people was or were.
Oh, my uncle, every time I can just mention the name Jimmy Buffett and he'll immediately break out into, he still has my putter.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome.
He let him borrow it in college, and then basically he dropped out and took off and became a singer, and never saw him again. I always loved that. He goes, "Yeah, I don't know if he still has it or not, but he owes me a putter."
Oof. If you want to join us, you can do so on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. The average Jackson Water customer could soon see their monthly bill go up. U.S. District Judge Henry Wingate approved on Monday a 12% rate hike recommended by Jackson Water, the third-party utility manager overseeing the city's water services. The request, made months ago by Jackson Water manager Ted Hennepin, by the way, that's JXN Water, who has sounded the alarm that revenue is not keeping pace with operating costs. Whoever could have seen that as an issue? The water system, according to officials, is operating at a monthly loss of around $1.2 million. Seems unsustainable. With fewer than 65% of customers paying for services and thousands of residents not logged in the system. Oh.
Yeah, those water meetings, watched 10 minutes of one the other day. Goodness gracious.
Wingate noted that while the rate increase is necessary, he is not comfortable with paying customers being punished while others either don't pay or aren't billed, among other failures in acquiring the funds needed to operate the system. Judge Wingate wrote this in his decision. Jackson's water mess is a profound inequity born of the city's decades of seemingly deliberate disregard of water shortages, intermittent pressurization, and funding emergencies passed from one administration to the next. A failure to maintain an accurate billing registry, and even a horrendously, shockingly bad Siemens investment, which saw the city hand out what could only be described as Christmas money. We, the court, and the citizenry of Jackson, nonetheless, are in a tragic catch-22. Without the revenue from paying customers today, Jackson Water cannot obtain the resources to fix the billing system and identify the free riders tomorrow. Due to the financial instability, along with delays in receiving $54 million in federal funds allocated by Congress last November, the city will be tasked with covering $1.5 million in water bond debt on March 1st that Jackson Water cannot pay. John Horn has opposed the 12% rate increase, but he has committed to covering the debt service payments tied to the city's water system. This commitment comes with strings attached in the forms of pushing Jackson Water and federal officials to be more accountable, improve collection efforts, and ensure complete transparency.
Yeah, well, this has been going on since the 80s, so... Yeah.
There ain't but one way that you get to this point. And people can talk about all the different reasons that the Jackson water crisis exists. There is one way and only one way that you get to this point. Crooked leaders lining their pockets through the years.
The debt float that has been thrown out and the grants and the amount of money that has been poured into that system since the 80s, I think we need a full accounting to understand how much is actually going in there and where did it go.
I mean, I'd like to not get a water bill. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Hennepin made a point the other night on that meeting that we have a lot of people that just won't pay. I mean, that's just the way it is. They're just refusing to pay.
You got people that won't pay, but you've got people that aren't even getting billed.
Yeah. Well, and that might be
just
why,
not in the system. But when they turn the tap on, water comes out.
It might be why some aren't paying. It's like, this guy over here is not even in the system, and you're asking me to pay?
I mean, I'm not saying it's the right argument, but it is an argument.
Yeah.
All right. Time for your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online, you can find them at pearlriverresort.com. That is the website. Family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment at Pearl River Resort. Check them out. I'll give you an update of some of the events that are happening coming up there very soon. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Southern Miss, all three in D1 Baseball's latest top 25 rankings. Now, that is a place that Mississippi State and Southern Miss started the year. Ole Miss, not so much. They were on the outside looking in, but now the Rebels make their debut in the D1 Baseball top 25, checking in at number 25. You got to go up a bunch of spots, double-digit spots, to get to the perch in which the Golden Eagles sit, all the way at number 12 on the heels of a 3-0 weekend that was capped off the win by Butler in the Round Rock Classic. Southern Miss off to an outstanding start to the year, just one loss that came in the season opener. And then you got to look a little higher in the poll to find Mississippi State, undefeated at 8-0 to start the year. The Bulldogs checking in at number 4. That is the place where they began the year. The top 5 remains unchanged. UCLA 1, LSU 2, Texas 3, Mississippi State 4, and Georgia Tech 5. Mississippi State will be traveling to Arlington, Texas this weekend, and they will take on, among other teams, the number 1 team in the country, UCLA, on Sunday. There's a scenario, probably unlikely with the way they vote, but a scenario where Mississippi State could make the jump to number 1.
Hey, the kid that Southern lost their only game to, he's been running up the board, so he's like the number 4 MLB pick right now. So yeah, Southern has faced some tough competition at point. Mm-hmm. And State, man, I mean, all 3 teams look good to me as far as the big 3.
You may not have had this one on your bingo card. Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao will meet again in a professional boxing rematch. It's coming up on September 19th at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Fight will be streamed globally on Netflix. The announcement comes just days after Mayweather announced his intentions to come out of retirement following his 2026 exhibition against Mike Tyson. Signed a multi-fight partnership with CSI Sports and Fight Sports. Pacquiao came out of retirement himself last July, and he battled then WBC welterweight champion Mario Barrios in a majority draw. He will also compete in an exhibition when he faces Ruslan Provodnikov on April 18th at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas. Pacquiao is 50. Money Mayweather turned 49 today. We're going to get a couple of middle-aged dudes, 2 of the greatest, a couple of middle-aged dudes getting after it in the ring inside the Sphere in Vegas, and what a payday it will be for them.
And probably a terrible fight.
Probably.
Probably, but that's my guess.
My question here is there an addiction to the sport, or are they broke? You know, Manny Pacquiao is a politician, or has been, in the Philippines. He was a senator in the Philippines.
I mean,
I don't think Money Mayweather has run for and won any political office.
No, but I mean,
but that cat spends some money.
I was about to say.
I mean, you know, maybe they need a check for 20, 30, 40 million. That's your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. PearlRiverResort.com is the website. Don't forget, you can book your tee time today at the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, DancingRabbitGolf.com. We're back with you right after this.
Just where our lives are going to.
From the Venom.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. mslottery.com. Powerball last night, no jackpot winner, so the pot grows. $218 million for Wednesday night. That's the estimated jackpot with a cash value of almost $102 million. You don't have to wait, though, for a big drawing on Wednesday. You've got one tonight with Mega Millions. $438 million in the pot for tonight's drawing with an estimated cash value of $203,100,000. That is, it's a pretty good opportunity for somebody out there. Would be a good thing. The lottery is on the road and celebrating its launch of Millionaire for Life at Blue Sky in Byram today. You're invited to join the fun. Tune into the lottery's special edition Facebook Live, starting at 10 a.m. sharp this morning. Don't miss it. Set your reminder. Tune into the Mississippi Lottery Facebook Live, 10 a.m. Follow the Mississippi Lottery on all social media to stay up to date on all things lottery. That is on their Facebook page, mslottery.com, the website to keep up with everything going on at the Mississippi Lottery. Club 11. You familiar with that, Lance?
No.
It is a nightclub in Miami. They got a few of them there. Its Twitter profile tells me that it is the number one nightclub in these United States of America and the number 6 club globally. I don't know how one goes about ranking these, but that's what they say they are. Last night, Club 11 in Miami was bathed in red, white, and blue. They hosted the United States men's gold-winning hockey team, and their American flags draped all over the place. Patriotism mixed with beer. It was quite the scene, apparently. The entire hockey team with the entire club singing the national anthem probably did not rival Whitney Houston in terms of musical excellence. It did, however, have plenty of patriotic frivolity with there. And then Toby Keith's courtesy of the red, white, and blue a cappella with a bunch of hockey dudes. That appears to be an experience right there. Those boys are living it up as American heroes. They were invited by the president to be at the State of the Union coming up tonight. State of the Union at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. One more sports story to pass along to you before we wrap up this 6 o'clock hour. By the way, again, Dr. LouAnn Woodward and Dr. Alan Jones will join me about 25 minutes from right now. We'll get the latest on what's happening at UMMC in the wake of the cyber attack from last week and get some other information on things that are happening at the state's largest medical provider. And then State Auditor Shad White will be with me in the 8 o'clock hour. We look forward to that conversation as well. Mexico, the country, the country's soccer team plans to proceed with its friendly match scheduled against Iceland on Wednesday. That's in Querétaro, amid unrest and violence in the country. El Mencho, the leader of the cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, or CJNG, was killed Sunday by the Mexican army in a targeted attack, causing widespread backlash from members of the group. Individuals burned cars and blocked roads in protest, forcing the FMF to postpone Sunday's Liga MX match between Querétaro and Juarez FC and Chivas versus America in the Women's League. Those postponements put Wednesday's friendly in question, but Mexico says it's going ahead with it. They had practice yesterday. If I were Iceland, I think I would say thanks, but no thanks. Let's come back at a time when things are a little friendlier. FIFA is the global governing body of soccer, and they put on the World Cup. They have asked for reports from Mexico on the security situation. The good news is FIFA is a non-corrupt organization that has never been accused of taking bribes or doing anything untoward. FIFA closely monitoring the events that transpired Sunday and Monday, particularly in Guadalajara, Jalisco. Here's the big question. What about the World Cup? We have the World Cup Americas coming this summer. The United States is hosting the majority of the matches, but there are some that will be played in Mexico and some that will be played in Canada. As one of the host countries for the World Cup, Mexico will play in the first game of the tournament against South Africa in Mexico City on June 11th. A reminder, the CJNG cartel is considered the most powerful in Mexico with an estimated 19,000 members. An operation spanning 21 of the country's 31 states and Mexico City. It has been designated a foreign terrorist organization by the Trump administration. Sounds like a great idea. Let's send the biggest sporting event in the world to a country where a cartel is trying to kind of overthrow a government. Good plan. We're back after this.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah. Some call me the gangster of love. Some people call me Maurice, 'cause I speak of the pompatus of love. People talk about me, baby.
Welcome again. It is the 7 o'clock hour. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. This hour of the show, the 7 o'clock hour, today and every day, is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. If you're having trouble with payroll, HR, benefits, well, we know running a business is tough, and so do the folks at MWG Employer Services. They are here to help. They'll talk with you about your specific needs and build a custom plan for you, making HR life a whole lot easier. MWG Employer Services, give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Love to hear from you this morning on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Again, 601-879-4395. This tax season, C Spire is helping you stretch your refund and still get the devices you want. Right now, new and current customers can get 3 free devices plus 100 gigs of data for just $100. There's more to see at cspire.com. The President's State of the Union address is tonight. Joint session of Congress in our nation's capital. What theatrics will we see from the Democrats? Hakeem Jeffries says that the protest will be for Democrats to sit in absolute silence. For that, we would all say thank you. We would be okay with that. It's far better than some of the disruptions that we have seen in years past. I don't know if there's any plan for Nancy Pelosi to make an appearance and rip up a speech or rip up a paper in front of the president's face. I don't think that will be an option afforded to her tonight. But what is President Trump going to talk about? I mean, there's an assumption that he will be playing some of the hits of the first year of his presidency, outlining some of the successes, the negligible number of border crossings. I would imagine that he would tie what is currently going on in Mexico to the need for a secure border and the need to get illegal immigrants out of the United States. I would imagine that he would talk about some of the successes of ICE and some cities that are safer than they were a year ago this time, despite the full-on temper tantrum hissy fits that you have seen from some blue city and state leaders about the National Guard being involved. I will be interested to see how much he goes after the Supreme Court for its recent ruling saying that IEPA powers do not allow the president to unilaterally put tariffs in place. Supreme Court justices are normally at the State of the Union. Going to be fascinating to see how and if he talks about Iran and the buildup of American military assets in that region of the world. If you follow some of the accounts that keep up with military activity, you know that the United States is poised to strike. There's a meeting coming up on Thursday between Witkoff and leaders from Iran to continue negotiations. There is a thought that if Iran does not capitulate on its nuclear program specifically, but also maybe on its growth of ballistic missiles and some of the other issues that the United States has with how the regime is operating, then a strike could be imminent. We shall see. What role is Congress going to play in that? I think it's a reasonable question. Limited engagements are generally allowed for the president, but putting us into a protracted conflict on the other side of the world is something that should need congressional approval. So that's something that this administration will seek. I would not anticipate Donald Trump talking specifically about that tonight. I do think he will talk about the SAVE Act, and the time being now for the Senate to get that done. There are 50 Republican senators that are supporting the SAVE Act. In the event of a 50-50 vote in the Senate, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, would cast the deciding vote. But they haven't gotten to the floor with that yet. Seems to be more and more pressure being put on by the White House on Majority Leader John Thune to get that to the floor by whatever means necessary in a way that it can be passed. So all of that on the horizon tonight for the State of the Union, we think. There are always invited guests that are used to talk about some of the successes that a given president has had. So we'll see what the guests look like. The guest list looks like tonight. Know that the gold-winning U.S. hockey team has been invited. The Mississippi House of Representatives, I guess this was late last week, passed some pretty significant K through 12 funding bills, but good grief, are they expensive. Mississippi House has sent the Senate appropriations bills that seek to provide $5,000 in teacher pay raises, as well as raising the base student cost by nearly $500 per student. You may remember that the Senate passed a bill and sent it to the House that was suggesting a $2,000 pay raise for teachers. And so the House sees that $2,000 and raises it $3,000, plus the per student cost going up, or the allocation going up by about $500. That would take it to roughly $7,300 and change per student in Mississippi. Currently, a little over $6,800. We were talking yesterday in a staff meeting, and We've just kind of called that number 7,000. We've rounded up from the 6,800 and change to 7,000 per student. So if you want to round up again and call it $7,500 a student, you can. It's really around $7,400 per student. And when you combine those allocations with the conversation about a $600 million infusion into PERS, you are talking about a lot of money being allocated by the House. We'll see what the Senate does with these bills. There is some concern among legislators, both on the House side and the Senate side, about where all of the money will come from. So we know that the state of Mississippi is sitting on about $2 billion right now. Right? It's like 1.2, 1.4 billion that is kind of there in terms of cash on hand, plus a fully funded rainy day fund. That's where the $600 million would come from in terms of the PERS infusion. Those would be those CapEx funds that could be distributed. But you're talking about a massive amount of money. Those two appropriation bills provide just over $5 billion in funding for education in Mississippi. So that takes the current amount and raises it. Funding for state general education programs and the Mississippi Student Funding Formula, that's the formula that replaced MAEP, is being proposed at $2.1 and $3.2 billion respectively. Figures represent an increase of $43.5 million for general education funding and about $193 million in MSFF funding. So, what else are you going to have to pay for? Big money on the way for Medicaid. The Trump administration is trying to give more power to the states, more oversight of programs to the states, but not necessarily handing off the money that goes along with that. Mississippi is in a really good financial position right now, but you can look a little down the road a little bit and ask some pretty significant questions about where the money is going to come from, because remember, we are also rolling back the state income tax.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the Super Talk app.
Beautiful Tuesday morning across the Magnolia State. We are glad to be with you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Thanks for joining us, for being with us, for being part of the conversation. C-Spire text line is the best way for you to jump in, especially if you've got questions. Happy to be joined by Dr. LouAnn Woodward. She is Vice-Chancellor of Health Affairs and Dean of the School of Medicine at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. And also Dr. Alan Jones, who is Associate Vice Chancellor of Health Affairs. So we talked about just a few minutes ago, the State of the Union is happening tonight. The President will give an address on the state of affairs of the United States. We know that the governor, we think soon, is going to give a State of the State address. I'm going to let Dr. LouAnn Woodward, if she doesn't mind, give us a brief State of the Hospital address. Because there are a lot of questions. I'm assuming that sleep has been fleeting for you in the last few days as you deal with the aftermath of the cyber attack that was launched last Thursday.
So, for a whole lot of us at the medical center, sleep has been a bit fitful, I would say. Thank you for having us on this morning and giving us the opportunity to say a few things. So, we planned this time with you this morning around what we thought was going to be our Capitol Day today. We were so excited. We were hosting our first ever, even though some of us spend a good amount of time at the Capitol, we were hosting our first ever Capitol Day downtown today, and probably had about 100 people, including, a large group of students, signed up to be there to visit with our legislators. So that was plan A. Now we're on plan B. All this started, I would say, with a very, very early morning text on Thursday morning that started with the phrase, "This is not a drill." That'll get your attention, in the wee hours of the morning. So I do want to give a little bit of an overview on kind of where we are and just say a few comments. Thank you for giving me the chance to do that. But I also want to start by saying this is an ongoing investigation. It is an ongoing investigation. So it annoys people when I have to say things like, well, I can't really talk about that, or I can't really give a specific update on that. Boy, everybody is really asking about really, really specific questions that in some cases we know the information but just are not sharing. And in some cases, things are still being determined and analyzed. So I'm not trying to be cagey, but, there are just some things that it is an ongoing investigation and we're not sharing every single thing we know. The other thing I want to say, and sadly, I find myself wandering over to Facebook, which can be a good thing and can be a bad thing. But so sadly, a lot of the reaction on social media has been so supportive and just amazing, honestly. But then there have been those few, that 10% or 5% or whatever that is, just outright snarky. So I feel like this is a given, but I really want to say to the public, thank you for letting me use your forum to say this, but we have had for a long time, still have, will have in the future, a very robust cybersecurity program. So we have that in place. And in fact, those in our organization who really need to share data with their collaborators that might be at other academic medical centers or other governmental agencies are frustrated on a daily basis at the level of security and steps you have to go through to do all that. So I just want to say that. Specifically, when the word got out about our situation, which happened unbelievably fast, I was really shocked at how early Thursday morning I started getting text messages and calls from people within the state as well as people from all around the country about what was going on. It was shocking to me how fast the word got out. But I do want to say to the many, many, many people, our hospital CEO friends and colleagues around the state, as well as so many others that reached out with the sincere offers for very tangible help. Everything from members of their own IT team to come assist our teams to paper. Can we send you paper? It was really remarkable, the people that reached out to help. I specifically want to call out a couple of local businesses and then one national business that just in speed that was stunning, didn't just reach out, but actually, did amazing things. So Epic, the company based out of Wisconsin that has our electronic health record, that is the company our electronic medical record is Epic, and it is so much more than just that. It is really our platform for patient data and everything. With the speed that you would have thought they were right next door to us and not in Wisconsin, sent hundreds of laptops that were clean laptops for us to begin some of our recovery work. Hederman Printing. We Thursday had to pivot in our inpatient setting and emergency departments to paper forms, to paper. And what we didn't have were the forms that we needed, or we didn't have many of the forms we needed. Hederman Printing Thursday worked all night long to deliver Friday morning big boxes of these forms that we desperately needed. And C-Spire showed up with cell phones with hotspots so that we could then have some connections within the hospital, different units, as well as servers and other mechanisms of storage. So some of our local businesses and partners just showed up in an amazing way. So early Thursday morning, we had a cyber attack. It hit one of our servers. So, and part of what was hit was what I just mentioned, our electronic medical record, Epic, which of course, when these ransomware bad guys. I've learned that the FBI calls them threat actors. When these threat actors strike a health system, that's where they hit you, because that is what hurts the most. So that's what they did. So since then, again, in remarkably rapid order, FBI and Homeland Security showed up. They are working with our teams on the forensic side. What happened, how this happened, who did it, where was the vulnerability, etc. Then we've got other national experts, multiple groups with different expertise, and I'm not going to call their names. At some point, I hope to give them the credit they deserve, but at this point, I feel like that would probably be best not to call their names, but that showed up on the recovery side. And I want to give kind of a shout out to particularly Kevin Urick. He leads our what we call DIS, our IT team, and Benson Hill, who is our cybersecurity leader. These outside experts started showing up on Thursday, and then more on Friday, more over the weekend. The team has been building as we've been going, and they said, when we show up at the scene of the crime, as we'll call it, when we show up at the scene of the crime, what we typically find is we have to start at zero because of the total disorientation, the shock, the inability to function when literally your internet, your phones, the backbone of all of your infrastructure systems are down. We typically start at ground zero because that's just where the team on the ground is. They said when we showed up here, y'all were already at 40 miles an hour. So there's not enough kudos that I can give to our team and the work that they have been doing. So we did Thursday morning make the difficult call to basically shut all of our systems down. We knew specifically some that were impacted by this attack and encrypted. There were others that we were not sure how deep or how wide or how far the infection, I'm going to call it, or the insult had spread. So we pulled everything down, basically, because we felt like that was the safest way to be sure that we had some containment of the situation. Since then, we have been working carefully to bring things back up, and we're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. In the big conference room where we have our incident command meetings, the terminology in a disaster we're accustomed to because we're accustomed to responding to disasters off of our campus. In this case, our MCES team and others are responding to disaster on our campus. But in our incident debriefing rooms, the real tension where tempers are flaring a little bit is, we've got the real sense of urgency to get all these systems back up as fast as humanly possible, as fast as we can. But then there is the other side of the coin of we've got to be sure things are secure and things are safe to bring back up. And that's not just our own wanting to be as safe and careful as we can, but we've got to be able to commit to some external regulatory bodies and others that, in fact, these outside experts have signed off that things are safe and ready to roll. So from the standpoint of patient care, I'm going to just give you this little blurb, and then I'm going to stop and see what questions you have. From the standpoint of patient care, the inpatients, the patients in the hospitals and health systems, ERs, I'm confident were in good shape. It was those patients outside of the medical center that suddenly didn't have a way to reach us, and our clinics had to close that, created the feeling of despair in the pit of my stomach.
Forgive me for interrupting.
Yes,
we need to take a commercial break, get the music going.
Yes.
And yes, I do have questions.
Yes.
We will get to those coming up next with Drs. LouAnn Woodward and Alan Jones from UMMC.
From the Seabrook
Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Glad to be with you this morning. Doctors LouAnn Woodward and Alan Jones are my guests, talking about what has been a very difficult few days at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. I want to throw in, and some of these questions may fall into the category of stuff that you really can't talk about, and I understand that, but I feel like they're questions that people are curious about, and I need to ask. Is there anything that you can say about the nature of the attack? Was this an email with an attachment that wasn't supposed to be open, that was opened? Was it some sort of a worm that they were able to get into the system? What can you say about that?
So that is some of the part that is still being discovered and worked on, and that we're just going to kind of not give any details on.
What about demands? What do the hackers want?
So they did leave demands. And again, that's part of, sadly, because everybody wants to know that, but sadly, that's part of what we're not sharing with the public.
I'm assuming it's financial in nature, though, right?
That's correct.
Okay. What about the effect on patient records? Those things that are protected so closely through lots of laws and acts, privacy of patient records, have those been affected? Do you know for sure yet whether or not those are affected?
So that's what we're trying to determine. Like I said, it was our electronic health record, one of the components that we know was impacted by the attack. And so what we are trying to learn is what has been encrypted, what has been exported or exfiltrated is the technical term. So that's some of the effort that's going on, of course, now and since last Thursday, that takes time to test and to validate, et cetera. So that is, our highest concern is getting our services back open to be able to take care of our patients. But very quickly, right after that, is the integrity of our patient data.
Yeah. I assume, Dr. Woodward, you've kind of been running point on this and visiting with all of these outside agencies and trying to coordinate. Dr. Jones, I'm curious, you carry a pretty heavy load at the hospital, at the center and across all of the clinics. What's your role been for the last few days?
Well, I'd say Dr. Woodward and I are working pretty closely side by side, but the main focus that I've had is to try to make sure that the clinical operations in the hospitals, the areas that remain open, have been as unaffected as possible. Anytime you are moving from an electronic platform of providing medical care to a paper platform, it requires a total shift in your workflows. So while we had procedures, I think you've probably heard Dr. Woodward say the term downtime. We have normal times when our electronic medical record goes down, so we can update it, or sometimes it's unexpected, for something happens on a server or whatever. And we have downtime procedures that we use in the hospital. And that requires paper documentation and other things, but usually those are time limited. Most downtimes are between 2 and 6 hours, and we have processes that allow us to have business continuity during that time frame. This is something that we're just not used to, having this prolonged amount of downtime. So it's required us to adapt our procedures and how we're communicating. Here's the other thing is, it's not just the electronic medical record. Our communications are totally down. So, normally we would call or page or something. We haven't been able to do that either. So we've had to, rapidly get in other methods of communication like walkie-talkies, cell phones, those types of things, and create processes that normally we've not had to do during a downtime procedure because we haven't lost, say, for example, internet-based phone lines. So there's just been a lot of adapting to what we have to do in order to provide, safe patient care. And our teams have risen to it, and it's been great, and we've done it. It's not something we would choose to do, but it just shows that we have resilience and that we can do those things when needed.
And in the inpatient setting, in our hospitals and in our emergency departments, which are open, so, any patient that has an emergency, our emergency departments are open. everything is working. The blood pressure machine is working. The monitor bedside for the ICU patient is working. The CT scanner is working. The lab is working. It's just the connection point into this common platform of our electronic medical record so that the nurse or the physician can pull up the lab on the computer is not available. And so the inpatient emergency department care is functional. It's different than normal, as he mentioned. Now we're using paper and all the things, and a lot of the phones and other things that we rely on are not there, but the inpatient care is happening.
It's apples to oranges, but I think about the ice storm that hit in North Mississippi just a few weeks ago, and most people figured out a way to function, but it was far different than the way they were used to functioning on a daily basis. And you're like, okay, this maybe is how it used to be 100 years ago or 150 years ago. It's not that long ago that hospitals were using paper records, maybe just 15 or 20 years ago that was kind of the normal thing. And so trying to go back to that, I would assume, is difficult. I'm curious, we've talked so much through the years about the fact that UMMC is a teaching hospital, that there is a student component there. What are the medical students and the residents who are a big part of the way the hospital operates on a day-to-day basis? What is their role while all of this is going on, and the full-time, I'm going to use air quote, professionals are trying to fix the problems as they're also trying to learn and be students?
So the interesting thing is there are a number of us around, that remember using paper records as we grew up and as we worked. Now, it was different because at that point in time, that was the norm and not like it is now. So some of our younger professionals are having to learn how to do that and kind of grasp how you do that. Our students and residents that are in the clinical setting are part of those care teams. This is a learning experience for them. And all of our students that are not in the clinical setting, that are in the classroom, they've had to adjust this week in that they don't have internet access in their classroom. Some of their examinations that would normally be given on a computer are being given on paper. So everybody's, kind of shifting and adjusting. As I mentioned earlier, right before the break, one of our biggest sort of concerns in this is those patients that we can't reach, that can't call us, that can't email, that can't get in my chart, the outpatients out there. And I'm going to ask Dr. Jones to speak to the triage phone line that we were able to stand up yesterday as a way to reach those patients, because that was a real sort of just our hands were tied behind our back and we were in the dark. We couldn't get the patient list. We couldn't get the clinic schedule. So that has been something that we have really struggled with, how to reach those patients. We've used press releases, we've used social media, but that doesn't touch everybody. So, Dr. Jones, if you want to speak to our triage phone line we set up.
Yeah, and I think it's good for people to know that, even though we have processes to try to continue business continuity, some of those processes went down pretty quickly. So, like the ability to get to a database that tells us what our patient's name and phone number is and when they were scheduled. In some instances, we could get to it. In some instances, it was encrypted so quickly that we weren't able to get to it. So we really have no way of knowing, who was scheduled for an appointment, who wasn't. We've done some back-end processes and figured a lot of that out for some of the time-sensitive things like chemotherapy and those types of things. But we see 4,000 patients in an outpatient setting a day. Wow. And so it's really hard to, do it with that volume of patients. So this line we set up is so that patients can call with a question, with an issue. I need a prescription refilled. I need this. I've got this. I had this surgery. That number is 601-815-0000. You'll leave information, voice information, and it is being transcribed and given to us. And then our teams, yesterday we had between 600 and 800 of them trained. They will be going through that information and trying to triage the most time sensitive, calling those patients, getting them back in. So today we will start seeing patients with urgent issues in our clinics, but not on a scheduled basis. It's going to be on these are the most critical things we've got to do now, And then once we get back to normal operations, then we'll get the patients who had scheduled things that weren't urgent filled back in. And we'll get them rescheduled.
And again, that number is 601-815-0000, 601-815, 4 zeros at the end. I think the two of you need to go. If you've got time to hang on, we can do that. If you need to bail for meetings, I certainly understand. I think they need to hit the road. All right, we will.
That'd be best. Yes, thank you.
we'll do that. Certainly more questions that we need to get to. Next time we'll talk about this. What does it look like going forward? How do you make security systems more robust? Is there a way to make yourself completely immune from a cyber attack? Those are questions that I'm not sure we know the answer to right now.
I have those same questions.
Thank you for
Richard.
your time this morning. Doctors
you.
LouAnn Woodward and Alan Jones with UMMC. We'll take a time out. We're back with you after this to wrap up the 7 o'clock hour. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Green.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Glad to be with you. Interesting conversation with Dr. LouAnn Woodward and Dr. Alan Jones. As we're just going to talk candidly for a second. We're going to get some of your messages on the C Spire text line that are very candid as well. First of all, I appreciate both of them coming in. I really do, because there is a lot on their plate this morning. The original plan was for them to just spend one segment. I asked multiple times, and Alex Payton and the communications team at UMMC facilitated that being multiple segments. They didn't really have the time to do that this morning, and yet they gave us a couple of segments, and hopefully we covered some information that answered some questions. Clearly, there is a message that Dr. Woodward wanted to get out and some information that she was trying to get out, and you heard her kind of opening statement, if you will. And there are questions that I wanted to ask that we didn't get to, but I think that is the nature of what we're dealing with right now. It would be, I guess I should say it is easy for me to say that's a little bit of a frustrating conversation, because there are things that, in my job to ask questions, I want to dig and probe and kind of try to get to the bottom of some of the things that are going on. I would guess that there is a significant amount of frustration for Dr. Woodward and Dr. Jones and others who would like to say, this is what we know. This is what we are trying to get to the bottom. This is what happened in the attack. We're trying to figure out who's responsible for it. We're trying to figure out where the lapse in cybersecurity occurred so that we can make sure this never happens again. But the nature of what they are dealing with is such that she/they, by the way, that was not pronouns, it was she and others, so they collectively can't speak as openly as we would like, and I think probably as she would like, to the specificity of what's happening. There is a very real conversation. And this was kind of the last thing that I wanted to get to, and we just ran out of time on, that has to happen after the fact. So when you're going through something difficult, whether it's recovery from an ice storm like we had just a few weeks ago in North Mississippi and in the Delta, or a theft, or a cyber attack, where you have to, and triage is absolutely the right word in a medical setting, but it translates over to this cyber attack setting as well. You have to handle the immediate first, right? The first thing you have to do is, in an ice storm where you've lost power, figure out how to get power back. And even if it's not traditional electricity, do I have a generator? How do I get heat when the temperature is below freezing? So you have to figure out the immediate first. And in terms of their situation, the immediate is, how do we care for patients who are in a really bad situation? Because heart attacks don't stop because a hospital was attacked by a cyber bully or a hacker. Transplant needs don't stop just because there was a cyber attack on a system. And so their immediate focus had to be on emergency medicine. How do they make that happen? Because that is what they are charged to do as a hospital and health system. But you get to a point where you have to have difficult conversations after the fact. How did this happen? Is there a person that is responsible? Is there a system that is responsible? Is there a group of people or a group of systems that are responsible? Is this something that we should have been ready for? Is this something that was a new type of cyber attack that not only we, but anybody else couldn't have been ready for? And how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? Or if it does happen again, how do we make sure that we are better prepared to get back online more quickly? All of those conversations have to happen after the fact. And I hope that as we move down the road, that we'll be able to talk with Dr. Woodward and Dr. Jones, and if there are others at UMMC that it makes sense, we can say, tell us what happened, how did it happen, and how do you prevent it from happening again? But that's not... And this, I guess, is where I go back to say kind of the frustrating part of having this conversation right now is so many of those questions you just can't answer when you're still in the triage stage. I'll give you that phone number again if you've got emergency medical needs. Well, let's see here. Where is it? 601. I'll give it to you when we come back. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Promised you going to the break that I would give you that number for the triage line set up by UMMC. Just in case you missed it earlier, this is for requests for time-sensitive needs such as medication refills or post-op care visits. Those are the appointments that will be prioritized by UMMC and its affiliated clinics as they reopen. The number is 601-815-0000. 601-815, 4 zeros at the end, and that's if you need to get in touch with UMMC. You'll have to leave some information. They will get back to you. Those calls are being transcribed and then sent to the appropriate places. May take a little time, and it may come from a phone number that is not directly affiliated with UMMC. It could be one of those temporary cell phones that they were talking about from C Spire, or even a personal cell phone of a doctor or a nurse or a caregiver. So 601-815-0000. That is the number. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. The C Spire text line is open to you. Happy to welcome in my next guest, State Auditor here in the state of Mississippi, Shad White. Good morning to you.
Hey, brother. How are you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming in studio this morning.
Yeah. Hey, I have to tell you, anytime I tell my mother that I'm coming on the radio in the morning, she says, "Oh, I love that Chris Cross young man. He's great." He's one of my favorites. And I don't have the heart to tell her that Chris Cross was a musician from several decades ago and your name is Richard, so I just say, "Yes, ma'am." But
so does your mom jump when she listens?
No. I think this is the old Christopher Cross. That
okay. We're going way back. Way back.
Lance, if you could cue up some Sailing by Christopher Cross to educate Richard.
Chris Cross applesauce.
I am also aware of that Christopher Cross. But
good morning. Anyway, good morning.
Yeah,
how are you?
You as well. Let's bridge the last conversation, the UMMC related conversation with your office. What does the state auditor's office do? Cyber attack for an entity that receives state funds, as UMMC does. Is there anything in the immediate that your office can do to help in a time like this? And then what about after the fact?
Yeah, so I guess I say before a cyber attack happens, the state auditor's office has some role in cybersecurity, and our role is to look at state agencies, and UMC is part of the state government, look at state agencies to see if they are complying with certain cybersecurity regulations. So, for example, state agencies, all of them, have to go out by regulation and get a third party to come in and test their system for vulnerabilities, test their system to see if it's vulnerable for hacking. And what we found, at least last year when we did this analysis on state agencies, is about a third of state agencies had not done that, which is not good. We don't publish the names of the state agencies that haven't had that done because we don't want to put a big bullseye on their back for hackers. Sure. But what we do is we take that information, we inform the public about how bad the issue is, and then we send that information over to the Attorney General's Cybersecurity Task Force, and hopefully they will take action. So that's kind of our role in cybersecurity. And then really, I mean, you hate to say it this way, but a lot of cybersecurity attacks are ransomware attacks. And the only way that you get access to your computer system when it's been ransomwared is to pay the ransom. So unfortunately, we have to inform the public if taxpayer dollars are used to pay a ransom to a hacker. That's kind of our role, is watching the money and watching the regulations before and after a cybersecurity attack.
I think about hostage situations, and if you watch movies, they're like, "Oh, you never negotiate with a hostage," or maybe you do. I say the hostage taker. Maybe you do. This is interesting because there are lots of public and private entities that when they are hit with a ransomware attack, they're really left with no choice but to pay a ransom. Now, you can try to negotiate that number down, I suppose, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Is there a state-level protocol on when you say, all right, we're willing to pay the number, it's that important to get all of our systems back online as they were, versus, no, we will not negotiate with criminals?
To my knowledge, there's no state-level protocol or rule like that, but I can just tell you from going through cybersecurity briefings with the FBI a couple of years ago, the sad truth is that for almost all ransomware attacks, the only two options are to either pay the ransom to get your computer system turned back on, or to be willing to lose all of your data and rebuild your network from the ground up. Those are typically the two options if you have a talented hacker on the other side. So that just means really that on the front end, you have to be vigilant. All these agencies and really every private business needs to put into place the latest software updates to make sure their systems are secure. They need to be training their employees on how to spot phishing attempts. So train your employees on how to spot emails from hackers, because that's typically how hackers get into your system, is they send emails to your employees and somebody clicks on a bad link. You got to train each individual person who works for you. The only answer here is preventative. That's the only thing that we can do to try to stop this hacking from happening. Once it's happened, you're probably going to lose a lot of money.
And the truth of the matter is, nobody's really completely immune to it. I mean, you can do all of the things that you need to do in advance, but you've got hackers that are, in some cases, smarter than CIA agents, FBI agents who are trained in cybersecurity and trained in IT systems, and yet hackers just have the ability to work around those things.
We live in a world of humans. Our systems are not perfect. It's like war. You can build the highest walls and the biggest defenses that you want, but if the person on the other side is creative enough and has the resources, they're going to get around your walls. So all you can do is try. All you can do is use the latest methods, try, train, and then try to prevent all this kind of stuff from happening. It's particularly tragic when you see it happen at a hospital because you have lives at stake, and those folks at UMC know that, and I think that's why they're working overtime to try to end this thing.
Yeah. And I guess going back to your point a second ago, if the two options are either pay the money or be willing to lose all of your records, a place like UMMC doesn't have the option of losing all of its records,
No,
right?
it does not. No, it does not. I mean, you think about a small business or, a small board or commission in Mississippi that doesn't do too much. Could they lose all their emails? Maybe. Maybe they're willing to start over rather than pay a ransom, but a massive hospital does not have that option.
Yeah. We will see where this goes, and I'm sure this is something we'll be talking about with you in the future after the fact.
Yeah,
because I know you'll have to keep a trail on that money. No secret that you are still in the reserves and
Guard. Yep.
Okay, National Guard.
Yep.
And that includes a deployment, right?
Yeah, so I can't talk too much about it, but yeah, I mean, if for anybody interested in being the National Guard, what I would say is, you sign up for training, and so you're going to get trained just like any other soldier or airman in the Army or the Air Force. You're going to go to their exact same schools. You're going to commit to doing 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year minimum, and then you're eligible for deployment just like anybody else. So you may have seen, Richard, very tragically, a few months ago, a couple of Iowa guardsmen were killed in Syria, and I saw on the internet people were like, "How are National Guardsmen in the Middle East?" Well, National Guardsmen have been serving and fighting in the Middle East, since 9/11 and before. So, you have to be aware of what you're signing up for. But yes, I mean, everybody who puts on the uniform is willing to commit to getting deployed and training and doing all the things you're supposed to do.
Well, and I ask not because I'm trying to disclose security for where you're going to be or what you're going to be doing, but I am curious. So employers, I think by law, have to allow that to happen. I think.
Yes, period. Yes.
But I am curious how, in a role that you serve in as a statewide elected official, how you balance that, being gone for an extended period of time during the summer and still handling the role of state auditor while you're elsewhere.
Yeah, I will say, to tack onto your question, if you're an employer out there and you have a reservist or a guardsman who comes forward and says, "Hey, I'm about to be deployed," if you fire them, you're violating federal law. So you just need to know you cannot take any kind of action against them as a result of their military duty, even if they say, "Hey, I got to leave tomorrow." Guess what? You're supporting your country as an employer, so you're going to let them leave tomorrow, and you're not going to punish them for it. So for me in the state auditor's role, there's actually a federal law that says that you're allowed to serve as a senior level state civil servant and in the military deployed at the same time. And you're allowed to do both jobs as long as you don't let it interfere with your military duties. And so for me, anytime I'm on a training or deployed or whatever it may be, I'm required to do both jobs at the same time. It's sort of like any state level official. If you're the attorney general, you're always the attorney general, no matter where you go, no matter what you're doing. And so we work out systems to where I'm able to communicate with the staff. I'm able to be responsive by email. The staff handle day-to-day tasks, and I still have to handle the sign-offs on big activities and hiring and firing. I've hired and fired people from training before while I'm not in the state.
Shad White, Mississippi State Auditor, is my guest. When we come back, we'll talk about a new after-school care report that is coming out. I think that's something that he can discuss and give us a little insight into. We'll do that when we continue. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Don't forget the C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. This tax season, C Spire is helping you stretch your refund and still get the devices you want. Right now, new and current customers can get 3 free devices plus 100 gigs of data for just $100. There's more to see at cspire.com. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
See, Chris Cross.
You're right. I may have burdened you with this for the rest of your life because you're going to get people calling in being like, Chris, it's good to see you, as always.
Well, if you think that you just authored the first time that somebody's given me a Chris Cross reference, I hate to disappoint you, but
just the latest.
Yeah.
Just the latest. Yep.
Shad White is my guest, the state auditor here in the state of Mississippi. I don't know that we have visited since I guess it was Nick Shirley that did the online documentary that was kind of self-produced about the rampant fraud in the state of Minnesota. One of the things that we saw in that was within the Somalian community, there are a lot of child care centers, air quotes, including the early Leering Center that we learned about, where there's a lot of state and federal money that was going to entities that did not appear to be doing anything related to what they claimed to be doing. Yep. He used the word over and over and over and over, fraud, fraud, fraud. We're trying to uncover fraud. That's kind of been the drumbeat that you've marched to in your time as the state auditor's office. Is there anything to be concerned about in Mississippi that is comparable to some of what we have seen in Minnesota and some other places?
Well, look, back in 2023, I testified before Congress, and I told them that all of these programs nationwide were vulnerable to fraud and were broken. So, we had seen some fraud here in Mississippi involving nonprofits. It was really bad. And I said the evidence that we've taken from that case is that this is going to happen in other forms in other places. And so lo and behold, in Minnesota, you get billions of dollars worth of possible fraud involving big grant dollars going to these child care centers, which are sometimes nonprofits, sometimes for-profit child care centers. So a few months ago, even before the Minnesota case bubbled up, we started looking at Mississippi child care centers and how we fund those as taxpayers. And what we found is nowhere near the level of fraud that you would see or have seen in Minnesota, but we see the same sorts of problems with the programs. So there's just not sufficient attention being paid to actually taking attendance at these centers and making sure that these kids are showing up every day rather than just pushing the money out the door for how many kids the centers say are on the rolls. There's not enough attention being paid to, whether the kids are actually learning anything or learning anything in these centers. I mean, that's the big concern is, are there kids showing up and are they getting something out of this? Because that's what we're paying for as taxpayers. So we've done now one report on child care centers and dollars going toward them. We're releasing another one this week. And the bottom line to me is that, if you're running state government, you've got to be watching these dollars. You've got to be eliminating the waste and demanding more from the child care centers. But big picture, Congress is going to have to tighten up the rules around these federal dollars that flow down to these centers and put a stop to all this at the spigot. That's the real answer.
I know you and the Lieutenant Governor don't always see eye to eye on issues, but one of the areas that he has just continued to talk about over and over for years now is chronic truancy in high schools. You're talking about attendance at child care centers. Is that a similar conversation that is worth engaging on from your perspective at our junior high and high school levels as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're putting money into education so that it will reach the kids, right? And so if the kids are not showing up, that's a fundamental problem. And yeah, I think he's absolutely right to be talking about chronic absenteeism across the K-12 spectrum and then in the child care arena too. If we're going to be paying for this, let's have kids show up. That's the bottom line. And I think we can take a variety of approaches to that. I'm for getting tough. I think we need more truancy officers. I think sometimes we need to hold parents accountable if they're not getting their kids to school. I wake up every day. I've got 3 kids, and it's part of my responsibility to get them to school before I come and do a show like this. So we've got to have parents stepping up, and we've got to have state leaders stepping up and putting teeth into some of these laws.
I think that I sometimes ask you questions that are a little outside the scope of just the state auditor's office, and you've always been willing to answer those. And I think I do it because it's no secret that there are more aspirations for you going forward, whatever those may be. I'm curious because I don't think we've talked about kind of where you weigh in on this educational freedom, school choice conversation that has been so prevalent and was especially hot at the beginning of this session. House Bill 2 was passed. The Senate rejected that very quickly in their Education Committee, but some of the things that are in House Bill 2, the Senate has passed smaller bills that they've passed along to the House. When you watch this back and forth, this conversation, where do you fall?
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm the product of public schools. I went through public school all the way from kindergarten to when I finished a public university. My mom was a 35-year public school teacher. 2 of my 4 grandparents were public school teachers. I love our public schools, but we have to give parents more options about where they can send their kids to school. I've had colleagues and friends who, have had kids trapped in a very bad school. Some of them could not afford to take their kids out of those schools and send them to a better school. We've got to give parents the ability to escape those tragic circumstances and make their kids' lives better. And we can't just say, well, we got to wait for the F-rated schools to get better. We've been trying to get some of those schools into the right track for decades. We've got to give those parents options. And as it relates to House Bill 2, that bill, as far as I know, is dead this session. And so what you hope is that people will take the ideas from that bill and improve upon them. And eventually, one day down the line, there'll be a good school choice mechanism that comes about here in Mississippi. But we've got to give parents more options. Every kid is different. As a father, I've got 3 kids, and I really realize it, I think, for the first time now. Each of my kids is so different. They may need different school environments. My oldest child is in a public school right now, and she's thriving. She's like your typical oldest kid. She's going to do well no matter where I send her. My middle kid is going to be different. And so I don't know what each of my children is going to need, but I know that every kid is different, and every parent has got to have more flexibility about choosing where they send those kids.
So much of what you do is about following the money and making sure that the money is going where it's supposed to be going and being spent the way that it is intended to be spent, because we're talking about taxpayer dollars. Is there concern for you in a universal school choice situation about tax dollars going to private schools?
No, because we already do that in a variety of different government mechanisms.
Right.
I mean, Pell Grants. Like, nobody seems to be trying to shut down Pell Grants these days, because we trust the consumers, the students and the parents, to take those dollars to a university that best fits them. Childcare. We subsidize private childcare for parents, and we trust them to take their kids to a childcare center that best serves their needs. So for me, the real concern is giving parents options about where to send their kid, whether that means a private school or a public school or a charter school. That should be the starting point of the conversation.
What about the fiasco with ABC right now? It's something that we've talked a fair amount about in the last few days. You have a state-run entity that is not functioning. And I was careful to say yesterday, let's not make this a conversation about alcohol. Let's make it a conversation about a system and the way an entity is run, because people sometimes get hung up on it being related to alcohol. So if it's just widgets, we're talking about the state controlling the entire widget production and distribution model. Not the production, but them having a say-so in every step of the process. Is the money that has been allocated for this warehouse with new construction, the money that's being spent on software system upgrades and infrastructure within the current operation, is this working? Because it feels like it's not.
If you ask liquor store owners, it's not working. That's what I would say. What I have seen and what I've heard from folks who are, on the receiving end of this system, liquor store owners, restaurant owners, casino managers, those kinds of folks, they're saying that the crux of the issue is that there was an outside private party that came in, and it was supposed to be facilitating the inventory process and then the dispersion of the product, the alcohol, and that clearly that is not going well or was not going well. So for me, in my role as state auditor, I'll just say this, we are going to look at the contract that the state government signed with that third party to see if they're holding up their end of the bargain. But look, a lot of times state government signs really dumb contracts with private parties, and sometimes they're really loose, and it doesn't hold them accountable for missing benchmarks and not doing the job well. I mean, bottom line is that you've got to have hard-nosed people in charge of government entities who are going to get the best possible deal for taxpayers, and they're going to be willing to push these third parties if they privatize a function of government and say you got to meet our standard, you're accountable to us, you got to do what we paid you to do, period.
In fairness, I have talked to a liquor store owner who said while the system wasn't perfect previously, it was functional.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this new group that is in place that is running it has been a disaster. And I don't know exactly how long that's been in place, but the last few months have been really difficult.
I've heard the same. Yeah, I mean, we've got to get tough on these folks, and this system has to work. If we're not going to fully privatize the system and just stop doing it as a government needs to find a way to do it well, period.
Why does the government need to be in that business, period?
Yeah, I have that same big question, and I don't love it. But clearly our legislature made the decision to pay for a new warehouse not long ago and to keep this inside the arms of government. So if they're going to do that, you got to get the product out the door.
Shad White, State Auditor, right here in the state of Mississippi. Always appreciate your time. Good catching up.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
We've got more coming up. Half an hour left with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Seabrook Dot.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important. Huge news.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Just want to say good morning and thanks for listening to Mrs. White, mother of State Auditor Shad White. Appreciate you being a regular listener.
I love it.
Shad said his mom said, I enjoy the conversations when you go on the radio with that Chris Cross fella. That's fantastic. I appreciate you listening as well. You can join us on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Let's go back and try and catch up just a little bit. Some of your messages that came in when we were talking with the leadership at UMMC, Doctors LouAnn Woodward and Alan Jones. They got a lot on their plates right now. There's no doubt about that. One of the things that you wanted to know was employees who are working on generating revenue that is not being recorded. How does that impact their financial status? They need to get paid for the work that they are doing. I mean, I think that probably goes into the paper trail or the paper-based operation that they are going through right now. You better be able to document everything. Got a question. Did they pay the ransom? If so, what funds can legally be used to do so to pay ransom? I thought what Shad said about that was interesting. Really was interesting. Said when you're dealing with high-level cyber attacks, you ultimately only have two options. Be willing to start from scratch in terms of your data, or pay the ransom. And when I asked him about whether or not there was any guidance at the state level or there were any rules at the state level about what could be paid, under what circumstances, when, how much, all those things, he said, no, there's no specific guidance for that, only a disclosure from his office that that did happen and how much. And one of the things that the Dr. Woodward pointed out too, because I asked her what the demands of the hackers were, and they said they knew, but they could not or would not disclose that at this time. Hey, by the way, if Hacker Boy or Hacker Girl is listening, Thanks for tuning in this morning. We appreciate that. Although maybe I should be a little more. I'm not trying to taunt the hackers. Maybe I should say Mr. Hacker or Mrs. Hacker instead of Hacker Boy or Hacker Girl.
Oh, come on, man. Maybe somebody in the middle there.
Could be.
Will offend them.
That's possible. I guess I should check with Houston to make sure that we have everything backed up.
Yeah, definitely. That's my
before
question.
Taunting any hackers.
Isn't that the big question? Is backing up the data? I mean,
It is, and we got a couple of messages about that, and I think those are reasonable questions. So, in the case of UMMC, what was your backup scenario? How often was the data that's contained in your EMRs backed up? What kind of redundancy did you have in terms of those backups? Is it backed up to more than one place? Is it only parked in the cloud? Is there an offline backup that is there or should be there? Because it's like, if you lost everything that happened, let's just say that your records are backed up once a week or even once a month. So we're on let's say it happens at the first of the month. So we're on the 24th, and that happened, on the 18th? It was last Thursday. It was the 19th. If you lost all the data for everything that had happened between the 1st and the 19th, that would be bad. And it would be very labor intensive to try to recreate that. But losing 19 days of data versus years and years and years of patient records would be something that you could handle, right? You could get through that. Where are those records kept? Does a breach, an attack, ransomware, however you want to describe it, have the ability to also back up, also affect anything that you've got backed up? Are there ways to truly protect the information beyond just a normal backup to a cloud, to a data center? I don't know enough about how this works, Lance, but when we're talking about the proliferation of data centers here in Mississippi and across the Southeast, it's such a big, big, big business. Are data centers susceptible to cyber attacks?
Anything is susceptible to a cyber attack. If they're creative enough, resourceful enough, have the finances and the army of people, yeah. There is no system that cannot be hacked.
Scott and Clinton says the state needs to prepare for the inevitable data breach class action lawsuit.
Well, it's coming. It's with the world we live in is all data. I mean, it's data driven. So, I mean, you hear how hard it is to go back to paper. I mean, and that's not just UMMC. That's everybody. I had a friend of mine the other day that had to fill out an application for a job, and he's like, "Man, I don't even know if I have a pen." So, yeah, I mean, it's
yeah.
And the more dependent we become on data, the more opportunities for others to breach it.
One of the things that Thomas has not so discreetly hinted at in his messages over the last couple of days is, from where did this attack originate? And I think the point that he's making is, if we are offshoring IT jobs to India or other countries around the world, are we opening up ourselves to more attacks than if those were jobs that were handled right here in the United States? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I don't think you paint with such a broad brush that you say just because a job, an IT job, is farmed out to someone from India, that it's immediately more susceptible. Maybe they're more talented. Maybe they're less talented.
Well, wouldn't it be a national security issue as well here? I mean, if your people's health records are getting stolen or whatever the data may be, credit cards, social security numbers, I mean, I would think that would be a national security issue. And so having, workers from other countries maybe peopling those jobs may be a little risky given the nature of the data that you're trying to protect.
Yeah.
It's just a thought, though.
Message here that Epic, which is the data records company based in Wisconsin that Dr. Woodward referenced, is currently being sued by the Texas Attorney General. And then some of you switching over to the ABC conversation on the C Spire text line, saying direct ship to the stores. Get rid of ABC. Bottom line is somebody needs to be held accountable within the DOR, and I don't mean to slap on the wrist. Stop blaming it on the private entity. Yeah, if you hire a third party to do a job and that turns into a disaster, then while, yes, you can blame it on the third party, the question then becomes, okay, well, why did you pick this third party and who decided that this was the group to go with? It's a responsibility for your actions question. Quite simply. The Ayatollah,
my guy.
That's Lance's guy. The supreme leader, the Ayatollah, Ali Khamenei, 86 years old, finds himself in a bit of a pickle, facing one of the most consequential decisions of his more than 30 years in power. Do you strike a deal with President Trump that would severely limit the country's nuclear program, which goes against everything that the supreme leader has said for 3+ decades? Or do you risk an all-out war with the United States and Israel? I mean, if I'm the Ayatollah, I'm like, is there a door number 3?
Yeah, I mean, China and Russia are not necessarily jumping in the bag with them.
I mean, we talked about that yesterday. It sounds like the appetite for that is just not there. Isolated and informed by decades of experience in waiting out successive American presidents, diplomats say Ayatollah Ali Khamenei risks making a fatal miscalculation in expecting Trump to abide Tehran's foot-dragging. There's no doubt Trump ain't some of these other presidents.
From the Venable Glass
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC. Alongside Lance Tolbert, Richard Cross, one last time on this Tuesday morning. A reminder, the State of the Union address from President Trump to a joint session of Congress is tonight, 8 o'clock Central Time. Tomorrow morning, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith will join us. We'll get her reaction to the President's State of the Union. Also, John McKay will join us tomorrow. That new entity, it's the Mississippi Business Alliance, I believe is the new name that John is running, which was the combination of MEC, MMA, and BIPEC. I think I got that. I'm just doing that from memory. So I think I got that right. Look forward, as always, to our conversations with John. A lot on his plate right now, and we'll talk with him about what's going on in the business community here in Mississippi. So we're talking a little bit about Iran before the break and the quandary that the supreme leader finds himself in right now. Story from the Hill says the Trump team does not resemble previous American administrations. Negotiators are not veteran diplomats or intelligence officials. Trump's top envoys, real estate developer Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, are businessmen who often look for transactions with major financial gains for the United States. But the regional officials said that Khamenei's poor experience with previous administrations, including Trump's first term, have hardened him against compromise. In his mind, he has learned his own lessons. Negotiators are expected to meet on Thursday in Geneva, and what the United States side is characterizing as a bit of a last chance to show a major breakthrough on a deal or risk Trump following through on his promises to strike Iran. Now, that is not without its own set of problems. General Dan Kane is chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and within the Pentagon has raised concerns to President Trump about an extended military campaign against Iran. He has advised the president on the fact that war plans that are being considered carry risks, including U.S. and allied casualties, depleted air defenses, and an overtaxed force. General Dan Kane has been the chief voice of those concerns to the president. It appears as if the president, and we understand his relationship with generals waxes and wanes. Those relationships seem to be really, really good right up until the point they are not, and then they are not. But all evidence points to the fact that President Trump has placed a great deal of trust and respect with General Kane. White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly said General Kane is a highly respected professional whose job requires providing unbiased information to the commander-in-chief, which he does perfectly. President Trump listens to feedback from all members of his national security team, and he is always the final decision maker. Trump posted this on Truth Social yesterday. General Kane, like all of us, would like not to see war, but if a decision is made on going against Iran at a military level, it is his opinion that it will be something easily won. Iran has threatened to retaliate as hard as possible against any American attack, and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei last week said his forces could sink a U.S. warship. That would not be a good idea. There might be some short-term gain for the Supreme Leader and the Iranians. That would not be a good long-term strategy. Sinking a United States warship. If you missed our conversation with the leaders at the University of Mississippi Medical Center, there's a story at supertalk.fm you can read. Dr. Woodward declined to talk about the demands of the hackers in the recent cyber attack, but did confirm that the demands were financial in nature. You can read all about that online at supertalk.fm. Our news team continuing to keep up with the story. Thanks for being with us. Lance, enjoyed it.
See you tomorrow, brother.
We will talk to you tomorrow morning. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.